Mark, it's wonderful to meet you, man. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today. I appreciate it.
Oh, John, man, it's great to meet you. Great to meet you.
Let's begin our story. Let's begin your story by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was doing all kinds of things, changing our lives. How did you make it through the pandemic of 2020, and how has it influenced the way that you live life today?
Um, the thing is, I the fact that my mom was still alive was a really big thing for me at the time, and a purpose was of my life at that time was making sure that I talked to her the moment I woke up, that I would call her, and the moment that and before I went to bed every night, I wanted to have contact with her, and also that I would see her physically, see her through a minimum once a week, if not more, because my father had just died. And so it was just a day by day thing that year for me. Um, and because first you had the shutdown thing, and then the riots happened and everything, and I was right in the middle of I live right in the middle of the metropolitan area that all this stuff happened, and it was just a day by day thing for me, and it was really a shocking thing. So how did I get through it? Really, just by living day by day and keeping faith. Really, it's keeping faith.
So let's get into what you do for a living right now to have a better view into your life and career. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, and the kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you
Um,
answer him?
well, I'd like to tell him I'm a literary pugilist, but he might not actually understand what the two words mean. Um, I'm a I'm a boxing trainer and I'm a writer. And what I do is I do a personal training business where I train people recreationally in a gym who want to be in shape and know self-defense. And then I also train competitive, both professional and amateur boxers. And I also I'm a writer, and so I have a book out now, and I will write occasionally. I'll write freelance articles and so forth for different publications, and I will uh, or any other kind of writing that is available to me that I can get paid for. And I actually make ends meet doing security work and doing transportation work. So I do kind of a rideshare driving thing, which I used to be a taxi driver, and I work um, I work not necessarily every weekend, but I do work a lot of Friday and Saturday nights, particularly as a bouncer in different bars.
So let me ask you this. What did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream life?
Wanted to be a boxer.
Okay.
Wanted to be a professional boxer. I wanted to be champion of the world.
So
That's what I wanted
take
to be.
take me back to your beginnings, to your childhood. How did boxing become your life? How did you finally find yourself in writing? How did all of this kind of evolve into who you are today?
So I I got kind of fascinated with boxing when I was about 9 years old. Um, I actually was athletic. My brother was a year older than I was, and I kind of just did what he did with whatever sports uh, there were. And so we did the traditional stuff, starting with t-ball and baseball, and then we played hockey because we were in Minnesota, and then um, um, I had just started football, which is going into fifth grade, and we had one football game, but then I had a chance to go and meet a boxing coach, and um, I quit football right away and just started boxing because I loved it so much. And what got me interested in boxing was um, I had started my dad had gotten us I never became a really big weightlifter, but my dad had gotten us a small weight set, and I'd been seeing we used to watch the All-Star Wrestling on TV, and there were a lot of bodybuilding competitions. They were on the weekend sports channels, shows, and I was really interested in the idea of having muscles. And then when I saw the boxers, they had the muscles, and then they had this kind of skill, this kind of a rhythmic thing with them that was just fascinating to me. And I just thought, I kind of wanted to do that. And I begged my dad to take me to the gym, took me to the gym, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And that was my way of playing after school, was just being at the gym for 2 hours a night and just going through those workouts. And so I, it became a major part of my life. And then as far as writing is concerned, I always had a tendency to tell stories or just about my life or about whatever's happening and tell people what's going on. And I got interested in the possibility of being a writer probably as early as 8, when I was in third grade, but uh, it wasn't until I was 16, junior in high school. Uh, Teacher, Mr. Frank Blankley was his name, had us write a descriptive piece where we describe a physical place that we were really familiar with. And I wrote about the boxing gym, about being alone in the gym and opening the gym myself. And by the time I was 14, I had made the National Junior Olympics. My coach trusted me enough that he gave me my own key to the gym. So I described one time when had gone there alone uh, before anyone else to work out. And um, that two things happened. I typed it up and I showed it to my father the night before I turned it in, and he was just really impressed and tell me, "You're always a good writer. You've always been really good and everything." And I hadn't remembered him ever saying anything like that to me before. And then the next, like a week later or a couple of days later, after the teacher had read through the papers and graded them, I was going to an all boys Catholic military high school, so he was speaking to us in a really kind of manly, kind of tough way, and he says, "Gentlemen, this I'm really impressed, and a number of you wrote some really good pieces. I'm going to read some excerpts," and he read an excerpt of mine, and he didn't name anyone's name when the authors of whoever wrote the piece he was reading, but I was the only one there who boxed, so everyone knew that it was me, and that encouraged me to think for the first time. You see, when I started boxing at 10 years old, my parents couldn't even get me to read, right? I wasn't a good student at all. And they kind of tricked me. They bought me for Christmas a subscription to the Ring magazine, the most famous boxing magazine in the world. And I started just looking at the pictures and reading the captions, and I'd read the rankings from heavyweights to junior flyweights all the way. And since I'd be looking at the magazine that long, I might as well read an article. So then I kind of became a writer. But when Frank Blankley read that piece in front of the class, and I got an A on that, and I started thinking, hey, maybe I could actually go to college or something like that. Um, that's when I really thought, okay, maybe I can be a writer. And that was the first time I thought of doing anything other than boxing as a path in life.
So let me ask you this: who's been a hero? Who's been an inspirational force that's allowed you to become who you are today?
Well, ultimately, ultimately, at this point in my life, I look at my father as a hero to me. And not that he was perfect or that I didn't have problems with him or that he was never disappointing to me, but I realized through as I look back in my life, throughout my life, he didn't lie to me. Maybe there might have been some things in life he wouldn't tell me or that were too much to tell me, but most everything in life he was open about and just told me the truth. But I know that he didn't lie to me, and he was always honest, and he he was an example of integrity to me in my life. uh as far as uh uh public figures are concerned, I look at different people who have overcome obstacles as inspirations to me. Like, so I used to look at famous people as people to emulate or stars and stuff like that. I mean, when I started boxing, Sugar Ray Leonard was the guy, and I got to actually meet him in 2009. He there was I don't know if you know of the heavyweight boxer, God rest his soul, Scott Ledoux. But he had fought a number of champions and contenders. He was always a world ranked contender in as a heavyweight in the 70s and 80s. Well, he was on the boxing commission and everything, and I knew him, and I interviewed him in 2009 after it had been announced that he had Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and um, then there was part of the whole process. It was for Boxing Digest magazine, which is now defunct, but I went to a celebrity roast in downtown Minneapolis, and one of the panel that was roasting him was Sugar Ray Leonard. And I got to actually interview Sugar Ray Leonard. It was the
Excellent.
coolest thing because I stepped up on the stage. I said, "Oh, Ray, can I talk to you?" And he let me get, and he waited for me to get out this recorder I had with a microphone and everything. But I stepped to my left and he turned his back to the crowd. And there were 50 people that lined up, and he waited 5 minutes and did the interview with me and everything. And it
Wow.
was just so classy. But then, um, so he was a guy that had a lot of challenges, athletically in his career and he defeated a lot of guys on a high level. But there are other boxers like Vinny Pazienza who uh, broke his neck and he still came back and won a world championship after that. And I mean, different stories like that are very inspirational to me. But the cool thing about come back to Sugar Ray Leonard is the next that was over the weekend, and then on Monday, my dad took me to breakfast. And I played him some of the interview and everything. We talked about that, and just he celebrated with me, and that presence of my father in my life is probably, as a man, it's the most significant thing to it kept me. I'm not I'm not overwhelmingly financially successful. I'm not uh I'm not a household name as a writer or anything right now, but uh I've kept myself in the straight and narrow enough that I've never been never been in prison. I'm still alive and I still got a chance to do some things. So I think the fact that he was there kind of helped me be at least not be harmful to the world if I'm not the greatest contributor, but I think I've made somewhat of a contribution
What's the greatest boxing match you were a part of? The greatest
that I was
victory? Yeah.
that I was a part of.
Yeah.
Um, that's that's hard to say. In 1984, 14 years old, I I'd won the state uh junior Olympics, and I went to the four state regionals: Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska. This was down in Marshalltown, Iowa. And my coach, the guy who taught me to box, Emmett Yanez, who was a World War II hero, the founder of the Mexican American Boxing Club, he and my mom and dad and I drove down together. And I remember there are two things. I remember stopping on the way. We were at a small restaurant, and he was over a cup of coffee, was talking to my parents, telling him his story about how when he was really young, he was a boxer and then amateur, and then wanted to turn professional, and he got married and immediately had to go to World War II, Army Airborne, and he was in the Battle of the Bulge and everything as part of the whole Normandy invasion. And he said, and I remember him with a cup of coffee, and I remember him saying to my parents, "Yeah, I came back and I went pro, but I was all washed up." And I just thought, just the humanity in that statement. I can still remember that. He had his snap brim cap and anyway, that was one thing. But then in that tournament, in the finals, which qualified me for the National Junior Olympics, I had this fight with this kid that was, I knew I could beat him. It was just tough, and we just I remember in the middle of the exchanges, just praying to God that let me get through this. I'm because I was because it was cardiovascular. It was so exhausting, And I remember dropping the guy flat on his back in the third round, and he still got up and everything. And uh I won winning that fight and then going to the National Junior Olympics at the time was a real high point. And I got to the quarterfinals and I got my nose broken by a guy named Jamal Hinton.
Oh no.
Um, that was one kind of a high to a low. Um, as far as victories I've been involved with, my teammate Will Grigsby became IBF junior flyweight champion of the world, and I was his main sparring partner after I had stopped competitively boxing between the years of 1994 and 1996 until he became a USBA flyweight champion and got ranked in the top 10. And having contributed as a active sparring partner, and there was one or two times I was able to assist our trainer in the corner. That's something that I feel like I was. I'm glad I could have been a part of that because you got to that high level and got to that world class level. But as far as my that amateur experience, that's one of the things that I haven't thought about that fight for a long time. But that was a kind of a critical point in my life. Uh, because a couple of years later, turning 16 was the when I could be in the Golden Gloves and the U.S. Amateur Boxing Federation open class, which meant 16 to adult males that were at that time 35, now it would be 40. But it's when I started fighting adults. And having gotten to that national level before I could do that kind of gave me an advantage and it helped me be stronger when I entered into that level.
So, of everything that you've done up to this point, between the book and your career in boxing and everything that you've accomplished, what are you the proudest of?
Being okay, this is a little bit of explanation to this answer. So I'm sorry because I don't want to take too long, but
Sure.
um when I wrote this book, my dad was dying. I was praying with him, praying with my mom over him as he died. And I was thinking, I haven't gotten married, I haven't had children. So if please God, I do find a woman still young enough to have kids with me, dad's not going to be alive to be in their lives. And I haven't published a book yet. And this is ridiculous. I'm disgusted with myself because there's so much I should have done before he leaves. But the thing that I think is the most valuable thing I've done so far, is that I've been a godfather to my niece, who is just turned 19 years old. And um I make a mention about the year 2007 in this book about how I kind of made a ref I really re-embraced my Catholic faith and started making sure that I was living the faith that I grew up with as I was been instructed to do, in the teachings. And I kind of really re-embraced it 6 months after having become her godfather. And it was that was a really important thing.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, everyone you work with, everyone that gets your book, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Man, I'm just a guy, uh, I'm just a guy trying to have a trying to enjoy life and get back to God ultimately.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like everyone else. I'm a child of God. A member of the family of God. And Archbishop Fulton Sheen said that uh, God's like the sun, and human beings are like the rays of the sun. The farther away the rays get from the sun, the farther away they are from the sun. So the farther away we get from God, the farther away they are from each other, the farther away they get from the sun, the farther away they're farther away we get from God, the farther away we are from each other.
Yeah.
And Pope John Paul II said human beings are by nature relational. And so it's through relationships that we get closer to God, through other people. Um, so ultimately, that's what we all are. And that's all I am. I hope that whatever I can do in the way I express my individual personality, that I can make some kind of a contribution to the world. Hopefully, that's also beneficial to me because I'd like to get some benefit from
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So your book, It's About Time, is out on the streets. I will put links in the show notes. If anyone wants to reach out, they want to learn more, any of the good business in your world, where can they go?
Well, it's available on Amazon.
Okay.
It's also available on another distribution site called Lulu, Lulu,
Okay.
right? And you can find links to both of those on my website, which is all spelled out, boxersandwritersmagazine.com.
Okay. Excellent. I will put all of that in the show notes. Man, Mark, what a great story. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I sure wish we had more time to talk, but then again, that might be a little much for everyone else. So thank
Yeah,
you everyone for listening.
it's given everybody a flavor to go out and get the book. So this has been wonderful. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.